Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope you're preparing for your GATE BT exam very well. So, my name is Saranya, I'm your educator in your YouTube channel Gurmantra Siksha Ka Granth. And one thing I wanted to tell you is that keep revising whatever you studied so far, keep revising and practice the questions, the related questions. You can take the PYQs also, or you can use some Pathfinder books like that, or you can solve questions from internet related to the topics. Keep practicing, because when you practice you'll get some kind of confidence. With this confidence that I'm able to practice it well, I'm able to solve the questions. All these things are like factors which will help you score high marks in your uh, exam. So today we're going to talk about Ramachandran plot and basics of enzymes. So what is a Ramachandran plot? So it is a plot. Plot means it's a graph where we can analyze the structure of protein, conformation of amino acids, and its energies. So all these things we can do in this graph. So we can analyze the structure of a protein, basically secondary structure. Then we can see what are the conformations of the amino acids and what kind of energy it holds, and it shows secondary structure of the protein. Ramachandran plot tells us about distribution of torsional angles in a protein structure. So you basically see protein structure will be there, and it has a polypeptide backbone. So protein will have a polypeptide backbone, and these backbone will have bonds like phi and psi angles, and these phi and psi angles will rotate. So we will understand about these bonds phi and psi, how they rotate, if they're able to rotate or not in Ramachandran plot. So torsional angles are basically phi and psi angles. It is a dihedral angle, which means two angles. It tells us about the two planes. It implicates rotation of peptides that are not allowed due to steric hindrance. In a peptide backbone, if you see, if there are heavy groups, bulky groups, it will cause steric hindrance. Steric hindrance means it will not allow the easy movement. So it will cause some disturbance. It will not allow the easy movement of the bonds. It will not help in the rotation of the peptide backbone. That is called as steric hindrance, and because of which instability will be causing. So we can also know, like, if the peptides are rotating properly, or if there is any steric hindrance which are not allowed. All these things we can understand in Ramachandran plot. This helps us to understand 3D structure of a protein. Allowed regions are those where maximum rotations are possible. You see, maximum rotations are possible means there is less steric hindrance. So where is this rotation happening? Rotations are happening in the polypeptide backbone. Okay. So rotations are happening in the polypeptide backbone. So if there is more rotation, which means there is less steric hindrance, there is no bulky group everywhere. So this plot describes values at which phi and psi angle shows minimum steric hindrance. It tells us about the allowed regions. These angles help in protein folding. If you see, when a protein folds, the polypeptide backbone and its rotation, it plays a very important thing, because a linear peptide has to fold, right? A linear peptide has to fold. So for folding, rotations of the bonds are important. Okay, if there is steric hindrance, if there is bulky group available everywhere, then protein folding will not happen properly. For protein folding to happen properly, there should be less steric hindrance and there should be maximum rotations. So we can understand all these in the Ramachandran plot. So you have angles phi, which will be in the x-axis, psi will be in the y-axis, and total angles will be 360 degrees. You will understand about phi and psi angle when you see the diagram. I'll show you that. Just know some of the basic information. Okay. For glycine, all the phi and psi values are permitted. So since glycine does not have bulky group in its R group, okay, it just has hydrogen, okay. So just hydrogen does not cause any steric hindrance. So it is permitted for all the values of phi and psi. For proline has bulky group. Proline is very different in structure. It has bulky group and this can cause steric hindrance when protein is folding. So this is not allowed. Here you see this this is one amino acid and this is another amino acid which are linked with each other using a peptide bond. Okay, one amino acid. Actually, I have not drawn the complete amino acid because the structure is not really important. Here we are going to talk about the angles. So this is one amino acid and this is another amino acid which are linked with each other using a peptide bond. So this alone you know, C double bond to NH is the peptide bond. So the angle you see here, the C and the N, this is omega. C double bond to NH has the angle omega. Okay. So this is called as omega bond torsional angle. So we will talk about this. Before that, you have another bond C alpha and C. Between C alpha and carboxylic acid bond, that is C double bond O, you have one bond. It is called as psi. You can remember like C psi. Okay, C is psi. You can remember it like that. Between C and C you have psi and between C alpha and N you have phi. Okay. So these three are the important torsional angles. If you see for the omega bond, omega angle, C double bond to NH will have omega. Okay, so it has only two angles possible. It is very restricted in its rotation. It has only two angles possible. One is 0 degree, the other one is 180 degree. So in 0 degree it looks like this, which means C double bond and NH are in the same direction. 180 degree, the C double bond will be in one direction, NH will be in the opposite direction. This is 180 degree and this is called as trans. This is called as trans form and this is the most stable form because if C double bond and NH are in the same direction and the R groups you see here, C double bond O and NH are in the same direction. Here R groups will also come. If R groups also coming, all are in the same plane, then what will happen? Steric hindrance will be there. Wherever steric hindrance is there, the rotations are not possible, and if rotations are not possible, this structure will be unstable. So the most stable form is trans form and cis is less stable. Okay. Within one amino acid also I have shown you the phi and psi angles. Basically in one amino acid you can never understand the omega because omega angle is not there. Omega angle is only between the peptide bond. In one amino acid you see between the C and amino group you have phi and between C and carboxylic group you have psi. So C, psi, C and phi. Remember it like that. Okay. So these angles will tell us if a particular protein structure can be allowed or not, which means if it is having minimum steric hindrance and is it able to rotate properly, all these things we can understand with Ramachandran plot. So angles for secondary structure. If you see alpha helix is permitted in the region minus 57 degree for phi and minus 47 degree for psi. In these angles, alpha helix is present. For beta pleated sheets, you have minus 130 degrees and plus 140 degrees. You can remember this. They might ask you in exam. Just it's very simple. You can remember it. Not much of a thing. So this is Ramachandran plot. Here you have to know few points. This is quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This region you can call it as upper left. This is upper right. This is lower left and lower right. So this region does not have any color. You see it's only simple pink. Nothing is there. Not even a dot is there because this is the disallowed region. And these are the allowed regions where you can see the blue color. These are the allowed regions. So in the upper left, you just remember what are the things present in what regions. Upper left region, you can have parallel beta sheets, anti-parallel beta sheets, collagen triple helix and beta tones. So these are the regions you will have these four structures, secondary structures, parallel beta sheets, anti-parallel beta sheets, collagen triple helix and beta tones. It will be present here. This is lower left. In the lower left region, you will have right-handed alpha helix. And in the upper right region, you will have left-handed alpha helix. This alone you know. You see x-axis is phi, y-axis is psi. It is extending from minus 180 degree to plus 180 degree. Here again minus 180 degree to plus 180 degree. This is all you have to remember for the Ramachandran plot. Like phi in the x-axis, psi in the y-axis. From minus 180 degree to plus 180 degree it is extending. It has four quadrants. Upper left, upper right, lower left, lower right. Upper left you will have anti-parallel beta sheets, parallel beta sheets, collagen triple helix and beta tones. In the lower left you have right-handed alpha helix. In the upper right you will have left-handed alpha helix. This alone you remember. I mean it's enough. Nothing else they will ask. Okay. And as I told you before, I hope you're having your notebooks nearby and making some short notes because that is very important. Short and whatever I'm saying, not everything is written in the slide. That is because I want you to make short notes and because that will be useful for you in your revision. I want you to make short notes. Please don't take this lightly because when you're doing the revision, you might find it difficult to study everything at a stretch. But if you have short notes and if you're keeping on revising it, then it will be like every all the concepts will be in your fingertips. Now we are going to talk about enzymes. We will see just basics of enzymes today and about the enzyme kinetics, inhibition, all that we'll see in the next class. Okay. So enzymes are biological catalysts that increase the rate of the reaction without being consumed in the reaction. You know, enzymes are biological catalysts. What does a catalyst do? It will speed the reaction. It will increase the speed of the reaction so that you will quickly get the product. So it is a biological catalyst. It increases the rate of the reaction and it is not used up in the reaction, which means you can reuse the enzymes. They are very specific in activity. It is very specific to its substrate and in its activity. So enzymes are proteins and has optimal activity in mild reaction conditions. We know enzymes are proteins. Mild reaction conditions means our body, in our body you see, in our body or any living organism's body, all the reactions are happening in a mild condition. If you increase the pH or decrease the pH, if the temperature is not a stable one, all these things will cause the reaction condition to be worsen and enzyme will not have its optimal activity. Optimal activity is the best activity that the enzyme can have. Okay. So the fully functional enzyme we call them as holoenzyme. Holoenzyme means fully functional enzyme. Okay. So holoenzyme will have its components like apoenzyme and coenzyme, cofactor. Apoenzyme is the protein part of the enzyme and it is inactive. It is inactive until it is attached to a cofactor or a coenzyme. Okay. So this is another part but this is non-protein. Okay. This is not a protein. It's just an activator. When this coenzyme or a cofactor goes and binds to the apoenzyme, this will become a holoenzyme. It will be a complete enzyme. It will be active and then substrate will come and bind to this enzyme. Okay. So cofactor can be zinc, it can be ferrous, it can be any ions, inorganic ions. And in cofactor itself, you'll have another class called as coenzymes. These coenzymes, for example, you have coenzyme A, acetyl CoA, you have NAD plus, NADH, NADP plus, and NADPH. Okay, so cofactors have metal ions, which is like zinc and Zn2 plus and Fe2 plus. And coenzymes, you have like coenzyme A, acetyl CoA, NAD plus, NADH. All these things come under coenzymes. So we saw apoenzyme, which means it's an inactive enzyme. Inactive enzyme, we need to activate it. For that we need a cofactor or a coenzyme that will come and bind to the apoenzyme, and it will activate it. Okay, when the apoenzyme is activated, it will become a holoenzyme. Holoenzyme is the fully functional enzyme to which the substrate can come and bind, and the reaction happens, right? Active site. Active site is a region in the enzyme. Okay, so this is an enzyme, this is the active site. You see, this is the active site. This is the very specific site to which your substrate will come and bind. Okay. Active site is the region of the enzyme where substrate binds, and after the substrate binds to the active region, it will form enzyme substrate complex. Enzyme and substrate form complexes, and then the substrate will get converted into product. After that, the product will be released from the enzyme. Okay. Active site is often a cleft. Cleft means you have a gap here, you see, and has non-polar environment. Non-polar means it's a hydrophobic environment. The substrate is bound in the active site by weak forces like electrostatic interaction, hydrogen bonds, van der Waals bonds, hydrophobic interaction. There should always be weak interaction between the substrate and the enzyme, because after the substrate is getting converted to product, the product has to leave the enzyme. If it is forming like covalent interactions, then the product cannot leave the enzyme. And for you to extract the product from the enzyme, you will damage the enzyme. So if the enzyme is damaged, you cannot reuse the enzyme, right? Therefore, the interactions between the substrate and the enzyme should be weak. You see here, this is an enzyme. This is its active site. The substrate can come and bind here. It will form enzyme substrate complex. Enzyme changes shape slightly as substrate binds. Enzyme products will be formed. The substrate is getting converted to product. Here you can see the color difference, and the product will leave the active site of the enzyme. And now the enzyme is free, so that the second substrate can come and bind. The next substrate can come and bind and can get converted into product. So this cycle goes on and on. Until how much ever substrate is available. Next is mechanism of enzyme action. We're going to see how the enzymes act. How do they work? So once bound, active residues within the active site of an enzyme act on the substrate molecule to transform it into the transition state complex and then into the product. So what happens is, when the substrate binds to an enzyme, okay, the substrate is binding to the enzyme, the substrate is getting converted into product. Before it is getting converted into product, it transforms itself into a transition state. Transition state is a state where it is getting transitioned. Transition means converted. It is getting converted. So the substrate will form transition state complex, enzyme substrate complex. Then it will form product. After which the product will be released. So the enzyme is now free to bind another molecule of substrate and begin its catalytic cycle again. When the enzyme is free, because the product has left the enzyme, now another substrate can come and bind to the enzyme, and its cycle of catalysis can start again. So there are two models, very famous models for explaining mechanism of enzyme action. One is lock and key model, the other one is induced fit model. In lock and key model, what happens is, enzyme and the substrate are like lock and a key, which means a perfect fit. Enzyme and substrate are like perfect fit. Enzyme is in a proper shape, and the substrate which is complementary to that will come and bind, and it is a perfect fit. After that, enzyme substrate complex will be formed, product will be formed, and it will be removed. So this is what lock and key model says, where enzyme is very rigid. But in reality, enzyme is not very rigid. Enzyme is little bit flexible. So when substrate comes, according to its shape, it will it will actually try to fit the substrate into the enzyme by little bit changes in the active site. Little bit changes in the active site will happen so that substrate can fit into the enzyme. It is definitely specific, but little bit adjustments can be done by the enzyme. Little bit adjustments. So this is the actual model. This is how enzymes actually work. Induced fit model. Now we're going to talk about enzyme activity. So you have a substrate, you'll have to convert into a product. Okay, it is going to get converted into a product with enzyme and without enzyme. We're going to see two scenarios. When you see with enzyme, I mean without enzyme, see substrate, it has to travel this big mountain, then go here. With so much of energy it is traveling, right? Because it's a very big mountain. So much of energy it is traveling till here. Then it is getting converted, transition state, then it is coming down to product. But this region of elevation is called as activation energy, which means it is a barrier, right? It is a barrier. It's a very big barrier. In activation energy is the amount of energy that is required by the substrate to get converted into the transition state complex and then product. Okay, this is the energy barrier. This barrier has to be crossed by the substrate, which is very difficult and it requires a lot of energy. But with enzymes, if this enzyme is getting catalyzed by an enzyme, what enzyme will do is it will reduce the activational energy. It will reduce the activational energy of the transition state. You see, now the mountain, the shape of the mountain, the height of the mountain has reduced. Here the height of the mountain has reduced. Substrate will require less energy to actually climb up this mountain and form enzyme substrate complex, and then it will form product. Okay, so this is the reaction without enzyme and this is the reaction with enzyme. And you see, with enzyme the reaction is very simple. It requires less energy. Enzyme does not change anything. It does not change the equilibrium. Everything is same. What it does is it will make the process little bit simpler, because it is a catalyst and enzymes are biocatalyst. So next we are going to talk about is classification of enzymes. So enzymes are classified into 6 categories based on what they do. So the first one is oxidoreductase. The name itself says oxidoreductase. So it will catalyze the oxidation and reduction reactions, redox reactions. The example for which is lactate dehydrogenase. Next is transferase. Transferase means group transfer and all will happen here. And the reaction type is move chemical groups from one place to another. Example is hexokinase. Next is hydrolase. Hydrolase means hydrolysis. Breaking of the bond will happen. Bond cleavage with transfer of functional group of water. Okay, water will be removed. Water will be used. Actually, water will be used for cleaving the bond. An example is lysozyme. Next is lyases. In lyases, what will happen is non-hydrolytic bond cleavage. Bond cleavage will be there, but hydrolysis, matlab water will not be used. Example is fumarase. Next is isomerase. Isomerase causes isomerization. Example, triose phosphate isomerase. Next is ligases. Ligases means joining, synthesis of new covalent bond between substrates using ATP hydrolysis, which means ATP is used in this process. Example is RNA polymerase. So this is the classification of enzyme. You have to know the classification of enzyme. It is not much. Just know the names and the function it performs. If possible, remember the examples also. They might ask you the examples. They might give you a reaction and they can ask you what kind of a reaction is this, what kind of an enzyme, what class of an enzyme is happening here. So oxidoreductase, redox reaction, transferase, group transfer, hydrolase, hydrolysis with water, lyases, hydrolysis without water, isomerase, isomerization, ligases, joining, bond formation is taking place. So this is the classification of enzymes. So I hope you enjoyed the class today. Keep studying, because a little bit of dedication will not do any bad for you. So see, if you want to achieve something, you'll have to do some changes which you have never done in your life, right? So if you're like what I say, if you are a lazy person, for example, if I am a lazy person, let me take myself, okay? If I am a lazy person and I want to achieve so many big things because I have a lot of dreams like that, if I do not change my habit of being lazy, if I'm just following my routine, I'll not be able to achieve what my dreams are. In order for me to achieve my dreams, I'll have to change myself. I have to do something which I've not done before. That is like get up early in the morning, which is actually difficult. So yeah, things like that. I have to change myself. I have to do something which I've not done before in order to achieve something which I've not achieved before. Okay. So if you are a CSIR net aspirant and you want to join Unacademy paid classes which are really useful, you can join and follow Neha Taneja ma'am. She'll teach you every concepts from basics till detail. No doubt of that. You can clear your CSIR net in one go with high marks, with good ranks. You can get daily live classes, structured courses, unlimited access, live tests and quizzes. You have various packages like for 1 month, 3 months, 6 month, 12 month and 24 month. By using the referral code NEHA, you'll get 10% off. Okay. So if you want detailed courses for CSINet, you can actually join Unacademy. It's a very good academy for CSINet. I hope you understood the concepts. Like, share and subscribe to our YouTube channel Gurmantra. You can join our Telegram channel Gurmantra because you'll get all the updates. Quizzes regularly happen in there. So you can join our Telegram channel. Join our Facebook page Gurmantra Siksha Ka Granth. You can visit our website www.gurmantra.in. If you have any further queries, you can mail us to tanejanehaofficial@gmail.com. You can contact us on 9351280000. Thank you so much. Have a nice day. Keep practicing, because a little bit of dedication can take you to places which you have never been before.